If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. That's according to one management principle. And that will be our topic for today because we'll be digging deeper to the project planning of project management. Good day, everyone. I'm Sir Kevin Asuncion. And today, another chapter, another discussion for your class. And without much further ado, let's start how important project planning is. Okay? So, the most important responsibility of a project manager are planning, integrating, and executing plan. So, to make it short, why planning is important? Because a project is just a short-term objective or short-term duration of a thing that they need to do in an organization. So you need to plan them because they have relatively short duration and often prioritize control of resources, require formal and detailed planning. No? So resources are limited based on those bounds, and that's part of the scope of a project. That is why you really need to plan, of course. No? So planning in general can be best described as the function of selecting the enterprise objective and establishing the policies, procedures, and programs necessary for achieving them. Planning in a project environment may be described as an establishing a predetermined course of action with a forecasted environment. So that means you are pre proactively doing something to avoid negative things that may happen and to anticipate good things that may happen. That's the purpose of planning. And there are phases of planning depending on the level of management, but all of the management levels of management are encountering or doing planning, no? As part of their functions. Okay, so the project manager is the key to successful project planning. So why? Because it is the project lead. No, it's desirable that the project management be involved from project conception through execution. Okay, so the top management might have the idea, but the project manager is at that level to plan those course of actions to be done. No? So that's how important planning is for a project manager. Okay? So what are the circumstances should we done good in planning and should we fail planning? So first circumstance is if the task is well understood prior to being performed, much of the work can be pre-planned. Ibig sabihin, uh, if these tasks, no, ay alam mo na yung mga gagawin, so pwede mo na siya i-assemble or i-arrange, no, what you will do, no? So kung alam mo yung mga pwedeng mangyari at pwedeng gagawin, no? If the task is not understood, then during the actual task execution, more knowledge is gained. So dun mo pa lang nakikita, no? So kung di mo siya masyadong maintindihan, habang ginagawa mo yan, dun mo siya naiintindihan, and it leads to change of resource and allocation, schedules and priorities, and one thing is for sure, you'll be that will cost you some resources. And lastly, the more uncertain the task, kung hindi mo alam kung anong gagawin, the greater the amount of information that must be processed in order to ensure effective performance. So, mas dumadaming trabaho because you might not know what is going on. Okay? So, it's really important, no? It's really important kung ano yung gagawin mo. So, at least you will be saving time and other resources. That's the importance of planning. Okay? So, if you fail to plan, no? So, what will happen? So, project initiation without defined requirements. So, you started without being clear. That's one. Then, wild enthusiasm. No? So, depende na lang sa tao. How do they perceive that? So, enthusiasm has different levels. Disillusionment, chaos, yun, kaguluhan. Search for the guilty. So, that's blaming people. Punishment of the innocent dahil hindi nila alam. And promotion of the non-participants. So, why do you need to do project planning? First is to eliminate and to reduce uncertainty. With planning per se, you can eliminate or reduce that uncertainty. At least you know what to do whenever things might happen. Then to improve efficiency of the operation, And then, yun nga, lesser cost, no? Lesser time wasted. And then, to obtain a better understanding of the objective. And better understanding of the direction, actually, of the project, where it is heading. And to provide a basis for monitoring and controlling work. So, nga naman, if you don't have plan, how do you know whether it is heading to the right way or not? So, those are the reasons why you need to do project planning. So, here's the project planning control system. I just don't know if you can see it, and I'll just be sending you the lecture. So, first is the goal and goal objective setting. So, you need to put up your objectives first, and these are they should be clear, no, defined, properly defined. And then whenever things are understood in the objective, dito mo mabe-breakdown, no? So, work description and instructions, alam nila ngayon kung ano yung gagawin nila sa mga trabaho nila, no? And then, you go now to the network scheduling. So, you will be understanding now the schedule. So, we'll be having those discussion in the following meetings. So, that's ang next topic natin will be scheduling, no? So, this is the factors there. And then, detailed schedule, o yan. Network schedule kanina, network scheduling, what comes first. And then, the actual schedule, no? So, the detailed schedule. And the budget is also a factor in the dealing with the project, no? Budget. And then, the time, no? The time constraints, no? So, you need to track them. As well as the system report. So, what is happening? And then now, whenever pinag-aralan yung mga factors na yun, you will be leading to a management decision making. No? So, on planning a project, there should be control systems for you to implement and to gauge whether the actions are doing well, and you need to review it and replan them. No? Okay, might be a contingency approach. No? So, when you plan, you should be establishing this. You should have the objectives, program, schedule, budget, forecast, organization, policy, procedure, and standard. Okay, so we'll be dealing each one of this. No? Okay, so the objective is a goal or a target or the quota to be achieved in a certain time. So that's the objective of the project. So that thing needs planning. Of course, what do you need to do? Okay? And then the program is the strategy to be followed and the major action to be taken in order to achieve or exceed objectives. How will you? Okay, so that's the program. Okay? Now we also have the schedule. No? Schedule is a plan showing when the individual or group activities or accomplishment will be started or completed. That's the actual schedule. That's the span. Okay? And then we have budget. Budget is the planned expenditure required to achieve the exceed the objectives. No? So that's the financial resources. What do you have? Then the forecast is the projection of what will happen by a certain time. Of course, your decisions and organization is vulnerable with the environment. So you need to forecast, you need to understand and forecast things. No? And then the organization, design of the number and kinds of position along with corresponding duties and responsibility. No? That's how the structure goes. No? So you need to plan for that. Then a policy that controls the activities and the plan and the program, no, and the schedule as well, and the budget. A general guide for decision making and individual actions. No, that's the policy. Then we have the procedure. Procedure is a detailed method for carrying out the policy. So generally, the policy is the general side, and the procedure is how will you follow, how will be directing the policy, no, yun yung procedure. And the standard. The standard of a level of individual or group performance is defined as adequate of acceptability. No? So here you are thinking about what quality, no? What is the qualification of the actions and also the outputs, no? For you to control the project, no? Hindi lang yung mismong product but also all of the actions. Okay, so that's the standard. Now, what do you need to ask? No, what are the most essential questions to answer in planning? So ito yan, ito yung mga basic questions sa planning. So on the issue of preparing environmental analysis, where are you now? Are you heading to the right direction? How and why did we get here? So that's the environmental situation, no? In fact, it's the analysis of the environmental factors as well as your organizational direction. Okay? And then in setting objectives, you need to ask, is this where we want to be? Are we heading to the right direction? No? Are we heading to that? Nagagawa ba natin? Where would we like to be in a year and or in 5 years? So that includes the time frame, no? So you also need to think about the alternatives, no? List of alternative strategies. So where will we go if we continue as before? So the case to case basis or case to case analysis here is here, and then is that where we want to go, no? And then how we will get to where we want to go, no? So you will be laying down alternatives, no? Kung sakali man one will not succeed. Then list threats and opportunities. What might prevent us from getting there, no? And then what might help us to get there. So that's the list of your threats and opportunity. And then preparing forecast. Where are we capable of going? And what do we need to take us where we want to go? Okay? So, yun yung mga predictions. Not actually predictions, but scientific guess, no, of the forecast. What's next? Okay? Select strategy portfolio. What is the best course for us to take? No? Alin ba yung mas magandang tahakin, no, mula dun sa mga alternatives? What are the potential benefits? So yun, risk and benefit trade-off. No? So what are the risks? Prepare action program. What do we need to do? When do we need to do it? How will we do it? And who will do it? That's action programs. And for the monitor and control, you need to ask, are we on course? If not, why? That's monitoring eh. Nagagawa ba natin ang tama? No? And then, nagagawa ba natin? O magagawa ba talaga natin? That's the question. Can we do it? Okay? So, we have also procedures that can assist project managers during planning. So what are those procedures? We have 10 actually. So let functional managers do their own planning. So meron silang sariling planning. Too often the operators are operators, and then planners are planners, and never the twain shall meet. No? Okay? And then establish goals before you plan. Of course, meron ka munang basehan. Plans are those how will you, no? How will you. Otherwise, short-term thinking takes over, no? So, for the moment lang yan, for the spurt of the moment. Set goals for the planners. This will guard against the non-essentials and the places. Your effort where there is payoff. Then, staying flexible. Keep a balanced outlook, no? Kailangan isipin din yan sa planning. Welcome top management participation because at the very least, they make decision about time, cost, and resources. No? Beware of future spending plans, that's budget. Test the assumption behind the forecast. No? You might consider testing the hypothesis. Okay? And then don't focus on the today's problems. Okay? So it should be the long-term span, the whole duration of the project. Then reward those who dispel illusions, no? Kumbaga pinaliliwanag niya, no? Mas malinaw. Okay? So, we have different levels of project planning, and we have the corporate cultural approach. That means your decisions are based from the culture of the organization, and we have individual approach. In the corporate cultural approach kasi they tend to break down the activities, no, based on the process. But in the individual approach, uh, it depends on how the project managers think, no? So hindi, kahit hindi niya na i-break down, i-divide yung mga activities, but they focus on that individual approach. So those are different approach, no? Okay? So after the end phase of planning, no? Of course, you plan that objectives and all of those kanina, yung buong process, no? So at the end of it, you need to make a decision. So what are those possible decision? Proceed with the next phase based on the approved funding level. Okay? So, base dun sa limitation ng budget. Then proceed to the next phase but with a new or modified set of objectives. No? Within that budget or iba na yung objectives niya. Postpone approval to proceed based on the need for additional information. So, you need to defer the decision. Pwede. Or lastly is terminate the project whenever, lalo na sa mga control process natin kanina ay parang hindi talaga pwede at hindi talaga kaya. So, you need to terminate the project then. Okay? So, uh, we have different ways how proposals are prepared in a plan, no? Project plan. So, first, the project manager prepares the entire proposal, no? This occurs frequently in small companies. So, siya na bahala, si project manager na. No? But in other companies, they have proposal manager prepares entire proposal, no? Okay? But no, this can work as long as the project manager is allowed to review the proposal before the delivery to the customer and feels committed to its direction. Okay? So ito si proposal manager lang, proposal manager. No, kanina is the project manager. So sa pangalawa, you have someone who is in charge on making the proposal. Okay? And then, project manager prepares proposal but is assisted by the proposal manager. No? So, that's a combined effort. No? It's coming from the project manager but with the assistance of the proposal manager. Or, proposal managers prepare proposal but assisted by the project manager. Okay? So, ito naman, si planner, no? Si implementor, si planner ay assisted ng implementer. Okay? We have typical problems with developing objectives. Ito yung mga frequent na-encounter natin na mga problems whenever we do project planning and creating or establishing our objectives, developing objectives. Project objective or goals are not agreeable to all parties. And that might be true in some other organization because we might have different perspectives, especially kung magulo at there are no standards and there's no support for the functional line managers. Huh? Project objectives are too rigid to accommodate changing priorities, so very stiff siya, so it doesn't change, no? So that might be a problem, cannot be changed or cannot be modified, no? So that's one typical problem. Insufficient time exists to define objectives well, no? So you don't have that much time is a problem. Objectives are not adequately quantified, so it's not that measurable, no? Objectives are not documented well, no? Not described well actually. Efforts of clients and project personnel are not coordinated and personal turnover is high. So biglang nawawala yung mga personnel mo. Okay? So when your objectives are clearly defined, so what you need to ask? What are the major elements of the work required to satisfy the objectives? And how are the elements interrelated? So, the elements, no, nung project. Which functional divisions will assume responsibility for accomplishment of these objectives and the major elements of work requirement, diba? In the functional management, you have the functional managers that serves as your project team, and then are the required corporate and organizational resources available, no? Kaya ba, meron ba? And what are the information flow requirements for the project? Okay, so what are the information requirements at the project initiation? When you start the project, what are the ano yung mga information na kailangan ng mga tao? Just like the the executives and the project team, meron tayong apat na basic na kailangan na requirements to start the project. First, the statement of work, that's the SOW. Then we have the project specifications, the milestone schedules, and the work breakdown structure or the WBS. So let's start with the SOW. What's the SOW? The statement of work is a narrative description of the work to be accomplished, and it includes the objectives of the project, a brief description of the work, and funding constraints if one exists, and the specification and schedule. So the schedule is gross. So that means hindi siya ganun ka specific, no? No, and even the gross schedule, no? And includes such things, no? Yung parang general view siya, no? Okay? So there's the end date, start date and the end date, and the major milestones, no, nung project, yung mga schedule na milestone. So when you achieve this, so let's start just establishing objective, no? So kailangan na yung objective ng project, and then define the description of the work, what will you do, specific siya. Okay? And then major milestone and written reports, no? Okay, ito yung mga kailangan natin, no? And then the project specification. Ano yung project specification ba? No? A specification list is separately identified or called out as a part of the statement of work. Specification are used for man-hour, how many man-hours needed, kanya nga project specification, equipment needed, material estimates, and small changes specification can cause large cost overrun. So, yun yung specification. Kumbaga sa mga items, that's the specs ng item. Okay? And then the project milestone schedule, ito yung mga schedules na may significance sa project. Okay? Project milestone schedules contain such information such as the project start date, project end date, no? Data items, though that's not limited to that, but just to give you an idea, no? Halimbawa, they are developing a product, no? Like bakuna halimbawa. So what are the milestone dates, no? What are the milestone schedule? Let's say sasabihin nila at the end of July finish na yung phase 1 clinical trial. Now that's the milestone. That means it's the significant schedule of the project, no? Yung mga kailangan gawin. And then we have the work breakdown schedule or the WBS. So kung kanina are the milestone, no, milestone, the work breakdown schedule is more specific. The last major item is the work breakdown schedule, yun nga. The WBS is the breaking down of the statement of work into smaller elements for better visibility and control. Each of these planning items is described in the following sections na nabanggit natin, no? That the work breakdown schedule breaks down all of the schedule for better visibility and for you to control. So kanina the milestone are the most important, no? Pero syempre, others are still important, however, not that significant. Pero makakaapekto, no? In their little way sa project. That's why there's what they call the work breakdown schedule. Okay? Now, when do you stop your projects? When do you stop your project? There are always situations in which projects have to be stopped, and 9 reasons for stopping are final achievement of the objectives, tapos na. Number 2, poor initial planning and market prognosis, baka failure in the marketing or research. A better alternative is found, no? So you saw other alternatives, and that will be more profitable and also will gain more success. A change in the company interest and strategy, that's on the top management side. Allocated time is exceeded, sumobra sa oras na terminate yung project. Budgeted costs are exceeded, wala nang panlabas ng pera. But ito yung iiwasan mo, no? Wala nang panlabas sa pera. Key people leave the organization, so your key personnel went out of the organization because with some any other reasons. Okay? Personal whims of management, baka there are grudges, other personal matters, no? to the management. And problem, too complex for the resource available. So marami pinagsama-sama, just like time, budget, no, other resources, financial, no, and among other things. And lastly, uh, the total project planning plans for the following, no? You have to plan for the following. Yung mga nabanggit kanina, first you need to plan for the schedule, no? That's time management. Your scheduling. Budget management, you are planning for the financial, so you'll be dealing with the cost. The project administration is the implementation of the project, no? And then leadership style, eto naman manpower ang pinag-uusapan dito, as well as the conflict management. How do you deal with conflict? So pinagpaplanuhan yan as may discussed with our past lessons. Okay? Meantime, we'll stop with this. The next session will be networking and scheduling. And yun nga, yung pinag-pag-uusapan natin, schedule development. Dahil that is technical one. And we need to give emphasis to that prior, emphasis to that. That's why nakaiwala yung discussion natin. So anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. God bless you. See you on to the next one. Always be safe. God bless.